Blxst. How you feeling, man?
Feeling great. Then he said hottest in LA. That's crazy.
I mean, it's early, but I'm very optimistic, and it's crazy because I was having a phone call with DJ Head last night, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, "That's the first artist that I ever interviewed, and I just tried to sign him immediately."
Absolutely. Shout out DJ Head, good mentor, always giving me games. So yeah, shout out, bro.
Right. So how do you feel? Like, where do you feel like you're at in your career? Because it's kind of crazy because you know, you're like a relatively new name, but you're all of a sudden making like big moves, and like, you know, like the Mozzie video that just came out a few weeks ago is probably the most views you ever did on a song, and that's got like a few million already. Yeah. How does it feel, and how are you sort of taking in all this new energy you're getting from people?
Man, honestly, it's been like a snowball effect as of recently since I put out my project, No Love Lost. It's been crazy. Like a lot of people that I looked up to as a young age been showing love, tapping in. So yeah, I just use it as fuel and motivation and just keep going.
Definitely. It's cool, too, because it's nice to see somebody getting attention out of L.A. that doesn't really have any kind of gimmicks going on or any sort of weird shit. A lot of people are using stuff besides music to get attention, and it doesn't feel like you're really all that interested in that.
Nah, yeah, I'm strictly about the music. I'm real simple, quality over quantity. So I'm always in the studio, always trying to become the best version of myself. So yeah.
So you're from LA from a young child? Talk about where you're from exactly.
Absolutely. I'm from South Central LA. Grew up in my grandparents' area, 75th and Central. Okay. But I went to high school in the IE also.
Oh, really?
That's where my dad stayed, yeah.
Oh, so you would go out there, what, during the week to go to school? Or
so
you
high
wouldn't
school,
bus all the way to the IE every day, would you?
Nah, hell no. Nah, I stayed out there with my dad for for a minute. So I would always be back and forth to LA in the IE.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So do you feel like that gave you a different perspective? Were the kids out there totally different than the kids you were around on the block?
Hell yeah. The school system was different. It was more strict. And then, but also it was like I was to myself a lot too, because I don't really know nobody out there. Right. But it was cool. Like that's what got me into music. Like just being able to isolate myself and learn shit at a quicker pace. Right. Because there was nothing else outside to do.
That's kind of crazy. I feel like it's such a consistent thing on with people I speak to that it feels like the people who blow up a lot of times or become like really great artists or whatever so often are people who are maybe from the hood or from a certain area, but then that like whatever the situation is in their youth, they end up being exposed to like different ways of life early on. You feel like that going to the IE and sort of like having, you know, a different experience than a lot of the other people that are from the same area you're from might have like made you more of an artist or made you more prepared for it?
Yeah, I would for sure say it gave me a different perspective. Like my sister, when we stayed in South Central, she got jumped. So my mom was like, I was the only boy, so she was like, I'm not having you go to high school out here. That's when I moved with my pops. And I would say it definitely gave me a different perspective because I started skateboarding and shit, like shit that I normally wouldn't do in the hood, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it gave me a different look on life.
That's interesting. Do you think the IE deserves the hate it gets? Didn't Tyler, the Creator, have a super viral tweet about the IE a few years back, and everybody was all fucking riled up about it? I forget exactly what he said. I think he was shitting on it. He's like, motherfuckers say they're from LA, but they're from the IE or something like that. And every person I know from the IE was like, I got to defend the Inland Empire, man.
Shit, I mean, no comment on that. Shout out to my niggas in Upland, you know what I'm saying? I went to Upland High, so. Okay. But yeah, I'm from LA. That's how I put it. Right. Yeah.
But you were so you really got into making music when you were out there just because you sort of had more time to yourself?
Right. It was like a situation to where I was bored and just wanting to learn anything. So I was on YouTube just figuring out how to make beats or how to record myself. And I fell in love with like graphic designing, like, you know, shit you wouldn't normally do if you was outside. Like I had the time to do it because I had that time on my hands.
No, I love that. When I heard you saying that in another interview, I was like, man, that's so cool, just because I feel like a lot of people sort of miss out on that there's so much value to be had if you can learn every other step of the process of making a record. And like you started making beats, you started doing Photoshop and figuring out how to edit and make your own videos and shit.
Right, yeah. So I do a lot of my post-production too to this day.
Right. Yeah, actually, Head, when I was on the phone with him yesterday, he's the only artist I've seen since Ty Dolla $ign that's really like in touch with how to do so many different parts of the recording process, which thought that was a pretty big compliment because everybody who's ever been around Ty when he makes music always says that he's like one of the most talented like overall dudes.
Yeah, nah, that's a fact. Shout out Ty too. That's one of my for sure inspirations.
Definitely. So did you get wrapped up in like getting in trouble while you were in LA or anything, or did you manage to kind of keep your nose clean? Were you not that kind of kid?
I mean, when you younger, of course, like just trying to figure out life and shit. I was just running around with the homies. Like when I think about me being little, I think about me just riding on bikes, throwing rocks at cars, and just doing dumb shit, fighting with neighbors. But yeah, I mean, as you get older, you start learning like territories you're not supposed to be in, and yeah, I mean, but also, my mom was very strict though. At the same time, like she always stood on integrity, so she always instilled that in us. So I always knew my limits at the end of the day. Yeah.
So you never really felt too tempted to sort of go down a different path? Were you like a good kid in school and shit like that? Were you focused in that regard?
I was a class clown for sure. Yeah, I would say that. I actually went to continuation school like in 10th grade.
Really?
But it was honestly because I broke my ankle skateboarding.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I didn't want to crutch around school. So I was like, man, fuck this shit. I'm not going to school. And then I was like, I was low on credit, so I had to go to continuation school.
Right.
Which was cool for me because continuation school is like your periods is shorter, but you get quicker credits.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Have you left the skateboarding behind at this point?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
I mean, I still fuck around a little bit, but yeah, definitely in the past.
Did you ever feel like you were really talented at that?
I really thought I was. Like I was hitting rails and stairs and all kind of shit. Yeah. So
that's dope. But at a certain point, the music just took over?
Yeah, it took over for sure.
I feel that. How'd you like figure out your style? Like when you first started making music, did you think you were going to be a rapper and then you sort of happened upon singing or whatever your style is now?
I was really just experimenting with everything. Early on, I was singing. A lot of people don't know. And then I just fell in love with like wordplay, like lyrics and rapping and stuff. Then I got back on to singing. Like when I was rapping, I was kind of insecure about my voice as far as being melodic and stuff. But later down the line, I just felt like my voice developed to where I can find a good pocket. I don't even look at myself as the best singer, but I look at myself as like a good song creator. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely, yeah. Do you sort of see... Do you see what you're doing as being so fundamentally different than what a rapper is doing? Because it feels like these days, like the line between who I consider a singer or an R&B dude versus a rapper is like the line just keeps getting more and more blurred because, you know, you got somebody like Polo G who there's a lot of melody in like every verse that he does, but at the same time, he feels more like a rapper. And with you, it kind of feels like structurally, you know, you're not as like R&B-ish as certain artists, but you're clearly not rapping either.
Yeah. I mean, I think that comes a lot with what you talk about as well.
True.
You know what I'm saying? I talk about a lot about like relationship shit. So, you know, I mean, I speak on the street shit too, but it's really minimal with me on that aspect.
Is that just your personality, or is that kind of a conscious choice that you make at a certain point where you're like, I want to focus on this side of life?
Nah, I mean, I just speak about what I know. Like, I'm not gonna cap like I'm in the streets every day. You know what I'm saying? So, but what I am dealing with is relationship problems. You know, so I speak on what I'm dealing with firsthand.
Right.
And then, you know, as far as other shit I speak on is just what I go through on a personal, like struggles as a growing artist or, you know, typical shit.
Definitely. When you talk about relationships, though, are you the type of person who's dealing with a lot of different girls, or are you just like letting one girl break your heart at a time?
Nah, I mean, shit. I'm a pretty picky man, I would say that. So I'm definitely speaking on a specific relationship, you know what I'm saying? And just the challenges that you face when you trying to create a career for yourself and set goals and accomplish them, but at the same time trying to balance being in a relationship and being a family man, because I have a son as well.
Oh, really?
So yeah, just creating that balance as far as spending time away from my family. Like that's what most of my content was about in my recent project. Really?
Okay. So yeah, because I mean, if you're in a relationship and then you start to go through a lot of serious changes, like what you've been through, even just, you know, your career is relatively new, but like, you know, even just in this short period of time, I mean, your whole life has changed so much, and for a relationship to stay consistent through that, it's going to be extremely difficult from my experience.
Yeah, it's inevitable. Like, it's what come with this shit. That's what I always say. But it creates good content at the end of the day. So I'm
Right.
grateful for it.
Have you ever been in like a blowout fight where you're like, the girl's crying and you're screaming at the top of your lungs and shit, and you're thinking like, man, this is gonna eventually end up in a song?
Absolutely, all the time.
It crosses your mind. Okay.
All the time, I'll be like, damn, this is gonna be a fire ass song. In the middle of the argument, I'll be thinking like of lyrics I could say from this argument.
Right.
It's fucked up, but it's the truth.
Do you think if you were in a perfect relationship where you just weren't dealing with much problems, that you might kind of run dry on shit to talk about in your
That's
music?
a fact. I feel like life gives you experience, you know what I'm saying? So the most fucked up shit you go through is what people relate to, because everybody going through fucked up shit. It's not like everybody's living perfect on every aspect. So yeah, I always look at it like that.